WXIA TV, a company of Combined Communications Corporation.
11 Alive.
Good evening, I'm Ellen Burstein. What appears to be the country's second major brush with a nuclear accident occurred in Colorado today. A nuclear power plant 40 miles from Denver was shut down after a cooling malfunction released radioactive gases into the air. Officials say only a minute amount of radioactivity was released. There are no reports of employees being exposed to the radiation. The nuclear station, bound to become a household word, is the Fort St. Vrain station. What Atlanta police thought might be our 183rd homicide this year turns out tonight to be a suicide. The body of 49-year-old Annie Margaret Anderson was found today in the bedroom of her home in northwest Atlanta. She had a bullet wound in her chest. Her family told police it was suicide, but police first treated the shooting death as a homicide.
The circumstances around the incident, as I see it right now, isn't consistent with a suicide. There are a couple of things that tells me that there was not a suicide. Now, there's always that possibility, and we're going to explore every avenue to make certain that the crime committed comes to surface.
Relatives of the victim say she had been depressed and had tried to kill herself a week ago. The medical examiner's report confirms that the relatives were right. The death was a suicide. For the second time in less than a week, there's been an escape from the Fulton County Jail. Sheriff's deputies say 4 men were discovered missing at around 2 o'clock Sunday morning. They had apparently cut their way out of a window in one of the cell blocks. 2 of the men were in jail on armed robbery charges. A third was in for burglary. And police say the 4th man, 32-year-old Clayton Stroud, was a suspect in the murder of a Tanzanian exchange student last month. Deputies say today's escape is not connected to the one last Monday. That's when 4 other men got out by cutting through a window grate in the prison library. Despite occasional flare-ups, the Georgia State Patrol feels violent crime is tapering off here. So the Special Trooper Flying Squad started pulling out of Atlanta today to return to normal highway surveillance. The State Patrol says its 50 troopers on assignment here will be back across the state in time for the Thanksgiving and Christmas traffic rush. Lieutenant Governor Zell Miller edged a step closer today to the race for the Senate seat now belonging to Herman Talmadge. Miller says he'll probably announce his candidacy sooner than the 4-week period reported by an Atlanta newspaper this week. Miller also says he doesn't think running against Talmadge will hurt him politically. If he loses, he can still come back and run for governor in 1982. The lieutenant governor also says he has no plans to resign from his current job while he makes the race. Who really won in yesterday's Florida caucus voting? Well, it really depends on whom you talk to. In nearly completed tallying, President Carter's delegates won 366 seats to Florida's November straw vote on the 1980 presidential race. Ted Kennedy won 101 seats. According to this breakdown, the president won a slim but clear majority. The president seemed clearly pleased at the outcome of the Florida vote. This morning after church services in Washington, the president said he thought the results were very good. Earlier last night, when he was a bit freer in commenting, Mr. Carter said the victory over Kennedy was a significant one. Well, as you might expect, Ted Kennedy didn't see the Florida results that way. He said the vote wasn't a true test of strength. Kennedy says his first true test against Mr. Carter won't come until January, indicating he will be in the race for the Democratic nomination in 1980. The president of the National Association of Home Builders warns that the nation's housing industry may collapse as a result of Washington's effort to help the economy. About 1,000 builders were meeting in Atlanta today, and they were very angry with President Carter.
The building industry is always the first to feel a recession, and they're beginning to feel that this one will be bad. Construction depends on credit. Builders go into debt in order to build, and buyers get mortgages in order to buy. But the Federal Reserve Board, trying to stop inflation, has raised interest rates on credit so high that it'll be downright painful to borrow. And a lot of the builders here for this meeting are afraid that by the time the flowers bloom next spring, they'll be out of business.
Housing starts at the current levels will be an annualized rate of 990,000 units per year, which is drastically low. In fact, it's about half, or less than half, of the need of the housing for this country.
The Builders Association has run a computer projection of the next year. They figure the prime interest rate will rise to 16%, unemployment to 8.5%, and inflation, well, it just won't stop. What will stop? Construction like this and the jobs that go with it. The builders say Washington should be cutting the federal budget and encouraging people to save their money instead of spending it. But raising the interest rates, that hurts too much. Ned Potter, 11 Alive News.
There's much brighter news today from Surgeon General Julius Richmond. He says America's health has never been better. The average life expectancy is up and infant deaths are down, as is the incidence of heart failure and stroke. The reason, says Dr. Richmond, is that people are now more interested in their health. New York's special security police are relaxing tonight now that Fidel Castro has left Manhattan. The Cuban premier jetted back to Havana before dawn today on a Russian jet. During the three-day visit to the United States, Castro held several private audiences with some of the nation's most well-known journalists like Barbara Walters and the Washington Post editor Ben Bradley. The bearded Fidel said he had to leave sooner than was expected because he couldn't stand being cooped up. Police had sealed off the Cuban mission where he was staying. Security was so tight that police jokingly arrested a city mouse that snuck past them last night. Nevada is getting its gas chamber ready for reuse. The story when Newsroom continues.